Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And a few days ago when OpTic Chicago played up against the Prestinni, there's been a lot of discussion regarding the communication from the OpTic guys within that match. A lot of professionals and former professionals saying this was some of the best communication, if not the best, they have ever heard in Call of Duty history. And treat to your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this from Zuma, the World Series of Warzone coming up very soon indeed. Some $300,000 tournament. Lots of great potential right here. I think a lot of the pro teams are fielding rosters right with some of their pro players. Right here you've got Zuma, Clayster and Asim going to be competing in this one. So exciting stuff from the subliners side. Pretty sure there's some other big name players competing in it as well. It'd be nice to see some of the really big Warzone creators pair up with some of the maybe lesser known Call of Duty pros. They're obviously incredibly talented at the game. It could be great Warzone pros if they wanted to be, but of course are competing in the CDL right now. That maybe a lot of the more casual competitive fans or casual COD fans really that watch Warzone don't really see too much CDL. Could be a great crossover potential, and maybe, hopefully it's not too little too late, because Warzone is still, of course, a massive thing right now. Thought this is very interesting as well from Slayer23 over at the subreddit. Really interesting stats. I think that Standy is someone who's probably been underappreciated so far this season because of the fact that Rokkr haven't necessarily got the results that some of the top teams have. But very much uncanny comparison here between aBeZy and Standy statistically. In terms of KD, very similar. Hardpoint KD exactly the same. Hardpoint damage per 10 minutes, kills per 10 minutes. So you could say Standy's kind of like a B-Tech aBeZy, but at the same time, well, Standy's actually been playing really well, so maybe he's on that level to some degree, but aBeZy's certainly aBeZy. So yeah, still obviously first blood percentage, definitely a bit of a difference there because aBeZy goes absolutely rogue, but still some very interesting comparisons between the two of them. And it's just Minnesota Rokkr, despite having a great player like Standy, clearly haven't quite got the results that they are looking for. Maybe they'll have the opportunity to do so going forward for the final week or so of Stage 4. This is interesting as well from aBeZy. Speaking of the bottom tier teams, you've got Florida looking to actually potentially overtake Minnesota Rokkr down there, so Rokkr could be an 8th. The problem is then that they're still going to be like 70 points above the next team, that being Los Angeles Guerrillas, and that loss that LAG had to Florida Mutineers a couple of days ago now, that was, in fact, yesterday on the start of the Sunday, that was not a great result for them by any means. And as Ake says right here, is it even possible these guys could get to top 8? Octane's like, look, we got to win the next 2 events, that is all, just win the next 2 events from the losers bracket, probably, no issues at all. As Slasher says, you're telling me there's a chance, and Slasher, of course, sitting there on the bench. I wonder, he's been a little bit more active as of late. I kind of keep an eye on this to see if maybe Slasher's thinking about its opportunity in the Los Angeles Thieves starting lineup. Could be coming back anytime soon, but he did also talk about a while ago, at least it was talked about, the fact that he's willing to take a pay cut to go to some other team if they want to pick him up and give him a chance. This then was some statistics before the final series of the day, or before the final couple of series, so there was some statistics that were locked in here, the likes of Scump, for example, the likes of Standy, a 1.3 at KT, Bance with a 1.46, so Scump had a phenomenal week, to be honest. That match that they did play up against the Prestinni, and in that match, it was just some great stuff from the OpTic guys. Of course, look, the thing with the OpTic guys, it's always so interesting to me, the fact that they win a series against not like a lower tier team necessarily, but they beat Minnesota Rokkr pretty handily, they beat Prestinni pretty handily. A lot of the discussion is, okay, wow, OpTic are back, like they're really on form, but then when they lose to FaZe, the discussion flips entirely the other way, and you've got people are talking about, oh yeah, we've got to drop this guy, I'm like, what am I seeing on the timeline here, right? Like, yes, okay, beating FaZe is a tough task. OpTic have had a very tough task of doing that so far this season, but yeah, they beat the lower teams pretty consistently, right? So it's always interesting, like, of course, given OpTic are the most popular team, like, the story on them is always going to flip, and it does always surprise me how much the story flips every single time where they go from a victory to a defeat. But right here, certainly, look, they played a phenomenal series. They did, of course, lose that control, which is maybe a little bit concerning for them, but this game number 1, or this game number 4, sorry, on the Moscow hardpoints, they were down by a fair bit. They had some issues to deal with as well, especially the fact that their internet was still freezing that we looked at a couple of days ago. But the communication that they go for here is pretty incredible stuff. Arcitys actually says this yesterday, I thought was pretty interesting, when he was talking about the Dallas match. Dallas had weird comms, but can't really talk. We spam absolutely everything to Arcitys over at the Atlanta FaZe guys. But yeah, we talked a little bit ago, the fact that a lot of the pros were saying that, like, Formal has great communication. Maybe he plays a little bit too slow at times, but his communication is superb. And this communication from the OpTic guys is just out of control, to be honest. Like, really, really well done stuff. And we'll see some of the clip from the flank in just a second here. The fact that, well, when they're talking about this series, exactly, what they thought of this listening, right? Because the OpTic guys are down at this point by almost 100 points. And yeah, just everything about this listening is pretty much picture perfect, right? You've got Formal being super calm. Like, I just love the variation in the tones from the OpTic guys, right? When they go from a situation where they're down a lot and they really have to communicate, and the small talk is phenomenal when they're talking about what lanes are open, what lanes are closed, like, what do I have, what do I not have, where could they be, where did I spawn up, where does that mean that they are? Like, that's the stuff that's really high level, that's very hard to do in a hectic game like this. And the difference between the communication in the top teams is pretty significant, to be honest, right? And they end up, of course, winning this series in pretty impressive fashion when they do make a crazy comeback, right? And communication is a pretty large part of this. We saw that the Paris Legion guys, when we go to communication lookout with them, they were been super hectic as of late. Like Temps bringing a lot of hype factor, and the OpTic guys certainly have the hype when needed, but like Formal tends to only like bring it out, of course, as kind of the leader in their communication at times when they actually get a crazy moment. When they do get a crazy moment that deserves some sort of hype, then that's the time to bring it to the table. But in the other times, it's about calming things down and making sure everything's called out and everyone understands what's going on. So just phenomenal stuff, all things considered. And then some reaction from the flank guys talking about the fact that this might be just picture perfect communication, some of the best that they've ever heard.
I'm mid. He's close, right side bus. Behind car hill, Zap weak. One shot hill, Zap, absolutely. He's under rat. Outside rat, one shot. In rat. They're still spawning bus. Bus, Donnie bus. One shot.
Yeah, he's one bullet bus.
He's bull bus. I'm gonna go new.
Bus.
Going into.
Wood door scraps, last guy.
Yo, Seth, when you spawn, fill Eskies, right?
He's going glass, Yeah.
Okay, I'm following in new right side to go. And one glass.
No, I spawn street.
Glass.
Glass together. He's not peeking me.
Glass, another one time with me. Scraps, one shot time.
I need him. One shot time.
Laying down back right.
Nice.
Glass, absolutely.
Glass.
Yeah, perfect. Sit down hill, do not overchill. One
Eskies. Nothing street.
Just don't down hill, we're perfect setup. Seth, I'm watching your deep tree, Seth.
You have deep tree? Okay, I'm watching my rat.
Eskies dead. Nice shot.
Very calm.
Another one Eskies. He's where'd he go?
One was
I
glass.
deep tree, He's holding their side Eskies. One still got. Yo, deep tree really ran out. Seth,
I hear it. I got him.
Nice.
Absolute.
Eskies on me, guys.
ILLey dead.
I left that time. Right side time, Down.
Nice. Yo, push my ender.
Traps. I don't know where he went.
He's laying down. Watch out. Backside hill.
Nice. He's gonna be
Yo,
glass.
Yo,
Eskies to hold. Two Eskies to hold. On the right window.
One shot.
Window dead. I am.
He could be front set. He could be front set.
Yep. I'm a pitchman.
No, you shoot.
It was really good small talk right there.
Bro, I'm not even gonna lie, this is the best ones I've ever heard.
Keep listening.
I'm watching my mid.
I'll give you deep tree.
Deep
Street down.
Planter's dead.
I'm looking. Yo, deep tree on the truck, Donnie. Dead.
Nice.
One more.
Yo, get time.
Oh my god. Go.
I got time.
I'm holding. I have mid.
All mid. Stay on for front.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, P1. It can be P1.
You have my front?
Yeah, I do. Watch.
Keep watching my front.
Hey, two mid window and one street. I'm looking at window. Mid window, Donnie.
Yeah.
Seth.
Yo, Seth.
Two mid window.
I'm getting window.
Yeah, two mid window. There's two
window.
Grab
some.
ILLey dead.
Hold on.
Joe, I'll tell you what. Maybe.
Now,
That's how you communicate.
That was
yeah.
phenomenal.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't want it to end. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
perfect.
that was
just keep,
perfect.
I was like,
No,
just
that
keep
was
the listening
perfect.
going for the whole map. Why
That
not? You
was
know what I'm
perfect.
saying?
It
And look
was-
at the scoreboard too. I mean, you hear him kicking up in the comms, and you see it in the score as well. What's up, Ben? You were about to say
I was gonna say
something.
like they're great crowns from OpTic and they chain that P4.
So these are OpTic's results over these last several weeks since the start of Stage 2, a couple of months already, excluding the Paris match that hasn't been added quite as of yet. So most of the series they have lost have been to some of the top teams, excluding this week here in Stage 2, which was a bit of a disaster. Of course, they did lose that crazy game 5 round 11, the accuracy 1v3 right here, and then they lost 3 series in a row to Thieves, Subliners, and Atlanta FaZe. So wasn't ideal for them at this point, but most of the series they've lost have been to some of the top teams in the game, and that is really the issue with OpTic, the fact that against these top teams, they do tend to have a tough time. Now, of course, they're going back to LAN at this major. They should have a great spot here in the winners brackets. We'll look at exactly how these groups are breaking down at the present time. This is, well, it's pretty scary for some of these teams. You can see Group B especially is chaos, right? Because we've got Subliners here at 3-0 still, Ultra down here at 2-1, Dallas Empire sitting here at 2-2. But still, New York have to play London. They still have to play Toronto Ultra. London actually beat New York the last time they played them, I'm pretty sure, last stage. And Ultra is not going to be an easy match. Probably favourite Ultra should be in this series if New York continue to play how they have the last couple of times. But it's been a little bit shaky, most certainly. But still, Toronto, of course, did lose to Mutineers the first series off. So, you know, Group B, absolute chaos. Group A, interesting as well. Thieves now at 1-2 after their defeat to Atlanta FaZe. And the fact they didn't win a map is potentially an issue down the line in terms of map count right here, 4-8 so far. So, not looking good for them by any means. But still, a lot to Call of Duty to be played this final week. Los Angeles Thieves versus Minnesota Rokkr is still a series that has to be played. And Rokkr have to play FaZe. So, tough stuff for them. On the other side of things, OpTic Gaming should be in a good spot. If they beat Seattle, they're going guaranteed, I'm pretty sure, at that point to get out into the winners bracket. So all things considered, should be okay for the OpTic guys, but it's just looking allowed to FaZe, man. They're just such a scary team. They're 4-0 here. They play up against Minnesota Rokkr. If they win that pretty handily, they're looking to, actually, it was last time that it was a 15-1 performance, right, from Toronto Ultra last stage in the group play. FaZe are on the run at least to doing just that. The only map they have lost so far is actually to the Paris region, so pretty incredible stuff. Few things I wanted to talk about before we finish off the video. This from Slasher really to do with the League Play ranking system right now. A lot of frustration from this about the pros lately, because I wish that when League Play came out, it becomes like a massive thing on Twitch and YouTube streaming and everyone's playing League Play, but doesn't really seem to be the case. It's there just to be there, but I don't think it does a spectacular job of bringing new players into the scene, and we'll see Rambo talk about this in a second. As Slasher says, I think Hardpoint pubs are better than League Play. The ranking system doesn't do it for me. The frustration's obviously about playing Search and Destroy from time to time, or relatively often, depending on how lucky or unlucky you get on the day. Also a bit frustrating, so, you know, all things considered, like at League Play, at least it is there, but it's still not great by any means, I don't think. And as Rambo Ray does say, he was pretty instrumental, I do believe, in the ranking system they had back in World War II when he was working for Sledgehammer. I hate being negative about stuff, but League Play is extremely disappointing. I enjoy playing the game, but the ranking system gives me zero emotions towards wanting to win / grind. People leaving at the start of every map they don't want to play because zero care. Feels bad. No debate that the competitive side of the game is a small part of the COD ecosystem, given how big the casual base is. But how are people supposed to want to get into it if the entry-level competitive side of the game, that being League Play, isn't appealing to anyone? I totally agree about this, right? Like, even back in the day in Advanced Warfare, right? When, I mean, the Advanced Warfare rank play system was so broken. The fact that you could use all the variants, like you could use the Speakeasy, use the Obsidian Seed, it was just super stupid. But to be fair, if you did actually do well, you got some great unlocks, right? You got all this crazy gear that you used to get back in the day. I'm pretty sure Dallas Senpai points some of this out as well, that I thought I'd just bring up on screen. I don't think this is any of the League Play stuff, and I'm sure there could be a lot of good memes if the clown one did indeed return, but there were some great cosmetics back in the day, and there were some great things that you could get from actually playing League Play. Not really a thing nowadays. There are some things you get, but they're pretty mediocre, and it just seems to be there for the sake of being there, right? Rather than actually trying to bring in some new players into the scene. There's been quite a lot of discussion lately about the lacking viewership in the pro scene, and the CDL probably have to think more about how exactly they integrate that, right? Because League Play is a potentially great opportunity to leverage, but if you're not going to make it actually particularly appealing to new players to play, then that is, of course, a concern right now, and I think the pros are probably on the right lines. We're talking about that. Just thought I'd finish off the video with this. A tweet that came out a few days ago from Lando, the most underrated map in Call of Duty history. Certainly interested to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section below. This one I love from JPK's. Retaliation is one of my favorite maps ever. This is an Infinite Warfare map. I think it was absolutely phenomenal for Search and Destroy and for Hardpoint. I think one of the best Hardpoint maps of all time, to be honest. On that's at least my take. That no one really talks about Retaliation. I absolutely love that map. Infinite Warfare, not my favorite game of all time, but using the NV4 and Retaliation, not too many better things in Call of Duty. This as well from Lyman, thought this is pretty good. Arsenal is an interesting take, actually. I didn't really like the Black Ops 4 maps too much, but Arsenal, all things considered, looking back on it, it was a pretty good map, to be honest. Played pretty well for 5v5. I think for 4v4 it could also have been a bit of a banger. Maybe they'll try and bring some of these back, right? Because that's the discussion really about some of these maps. We know that Hijack should be coming back. We've heard rumours potentially that there's some other remakes in the works. Whether anything changes into Stage 5 at this point, I kind of doubt it. But still, if they brought back some other maps from Black Ops 4, Stronghold as well from Black Ops 3 I thought was phenomenal. That's probably my favourite Hardpoint map in that game, to be honest, as well. People talk a lot about Fringe, talk a lot about Breach, and other maps like that, but Stronghold to me was probably my favourite. Was fantastic for all game modes. I think CTF was a little bit questionable, to be fair, where you could just sit all the way at the back of the map, but the other game modes were phenomenal on that one. But maybe you guys have very different perspectives indeed. Intriguing your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out these records, and like you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thanks for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.